Congratulations if you've made it to this stage. Now it's time for us. We've created a schema in the previous class. Now it's time for us, and we have exported the schema, the model. Now it's time for us to actually access it and make use of it. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to go to the controllers. Now, don't forget we said the controllers actually sits. So we created a controller here before now. We called it a block controller, right? I think that was what we called the blog post. So I'm just going to be creating another controller here that is going to be called user controller. So I'll call this user controllers. So you could say controllers or controller, doesn't really matter. So that's the name. So this is where we're going to be creating our user controller. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to be able to sync something into the database. So I'm just going to be showing you a very simple method of doing it with no validation at all. So we're not going to be validating for now, but let's just see how we can actually sync things into our database first. And then I will also just come up with the concept of how we can actually, delete something from the database as the case may be, and maybe delete user, which does not really make sense. You don't want to create a user and just want to delete it. Or maybe you want to edit the user, and also you want to. So the major thing here we're actually taking you through is the CRUD operation: create, read, update, and delete. So you can do this to any controller. You can use this to build anything that you want to build. This is just the concept. So let's move on quickly. So the first thing is that we want to create a post request. So I think we should just call it register. That's what I would like to call it. So I'll just export it immediately. Module dot exports equal to register, created the register, and then the register controller itself. So it's taken to, as usual, let me fix this. So it's taking two parameters as usual, the request and the response. That's what it's taking. So there is no big deal. So let's bring this in. Let's just try to it's going to be a post request. Let's just say console.log or rest.send. Once it is clicked, .send. Let me just put in here, say post request. So that's it. That's what we're actually bringing in, and say post request. So let me take this off. So that is it. We're just making this and say post request. And as you know, we're going to be creating this in the routes as well. So I want to use that feature of the auto importing. So I'll go to the route parameter right away. And the route parameter, I call that registered. So I'm just going to come in here and create a route parameter for the register and say app dot. I think I should do the user up here. Should do the user up here. So to show these are users. Okay, so I'm going to say router.post. So it's a post request, definitely. So we're making a post request, and then the route to it is just going to be /register. So, and I want to use that auto import of a thing. So just look at this. Take a look at this. I manually auto import it. Now I remember the name of this controller. So this is the controller I'm trying to create. I'm trying to import. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. So this is the controller I'm trying to bring in, this user controller, which is called register. So immediately I type in register, I can auto import it even without me typing it. So that feature is a very it's a kind of cool feature. It actually makes work much more faster and easier. So I'm just going to type register. Okay, for reason personal to it is not seeing it. Okay, I think I should just manually put it there and auto import. So sorry. So this is going to be called register. And now let's move on quickly and auto import it. So I'm going to say const register is equal to, then I'll require So I'm requiring, the controller. So it's going to be dot forward slash, and we're going to be having controllers. Yes, inside the controllers, I need the user controllers. Is that okay? So that's what I actually called it, user controllers. I don't know why I call it controllers or instead of controller. Okay. I think I will take off the S and just correct that. So the name down here, I'm changing it to controller just for the sake of consistency. That does not mean that it's not going to work. It's still going to work exactly the same way, but just to maintain some level of consistency. Okay. So that is it. So we have the user controller being brought in here. So down on our string is exported to user controller. Then we're making use of the register. So once I go to my postman, I'm going to quickly test this with the postman. Okay, here we go. It's time for us to actually test, and this is our port of 4000, then forward slash, I think it's called register, not just API. So let's go to register. So forward slash 4000, then register. Let's give it a shot and see what happened. Okay, so we're getting an error. 404 actually means it's not found and there's a bad request. So we must have done something very funny. So localhost 4000. Okay, I think I should just, I want to take this up, whether HTTP or localhost. So I think we should see what the problem is. So let's go back to our code. We're going to be seeing what the problem actually is while we're getting this. Okay, so it said registered is not found. So how? So it means that, and then it's not even showing any error here. We said we created it's in port 4000, and it's not seeing it at all. So let's be sure that we actually did the imports properly. So we imported registered controller. I think that's what it's called. So let's call this registered controller. Yeah, just the way we have the block controller, or let me call it user controller. That's actually the right word to use. So the user controller. So, and we are bringing that in and nothing more. And this is the registered. So forward slash registered, it does the register. Then it goes into, the stuff and register. So let me quickly check what that problem could be. So here we go. We're trying to debug module.export. Module.export registered. Yes, request to send, and we are sending that to the front end. So this has already been exported. So why are we getting any problem? Why are we getting issues with this? Okay, let me quickly save it again. We're on port 4000 and go back to our postman and try to run the post requests because we said it's a post request /. So we're still getting the same issues. So we're just quickly going to see what that is and fix that out. And the problem is that it's not actually connected. So there is a wrong linking somewhere, which we're going to fix now. Okay, the problem was actually coming from the import here. That is just it. So the name, it was wrongly imported, and that was why we're getting the error. And so that is it. If you go to the controllers, we have the user controller right here, and this is it. This is what we are exporting, and we're trying to import it right away on our route. So it was a wrong import that actually caused that. So if we go back to our postman and try to run the postman post, so we're going to see the request be sent to the front end response that post registered, right? That was exactly the response that we said you should send immediately, that actually happens. So quickly, we have been able to assess that. So the most important part now is for us to access the user model. So what is the situation where we can get the model and save something into the database? That's what we actually want to do. That's the purpose of this, video. So for us to do that, I'm going to be bringing in the model. So I'm going to bring in the user model. So let's just say, I'll just say constant and user. You may decide not to save this in a variable. So I'll make it a variable like let. So you may decide not to store this in a variable. It's all left for you. So what I want to bring in now is going to be new, now user model. So I thought the auto import will help me out. So immediately I hit this, you can see that it's going to auto import it. So it's importing the user model. So I want to make an instance of the user model. So this is it. Once you make the instance, very simple to do, and boom, we are good to go. Then what are the things that we want to put in as properties? The things that we want to save on the database is what we want to do now. The database field, I mean, we don't call it table, we call it collection in this situation, right? In Mongoose, if you're coming from SQL, we call it table, but here we call it collection. That means you've created a model. Now we are creating what is called a table, right? If it is SQL now, but here we call it collection. So we want to start filling in the collection field. So the field that we have, that schema we defined was, we defined email, right? So this is what we want to put into the email. So we want to type in something into the email. Now this is going to be collected from the user, but we just want to hard code it. So let me say the email is email@user.com. So there is no verification, no form of verification. So this is just a simple way first. Now the next thing is actually the name, right? We have a field called name. Now it doesn't matter if it is arranged exactly the same way, provided that the key and the values, the collection name rows or field actually matches it. So the name is Simon, is Gideon Bruce. Okay, so and what we're going to be having here next is actually the email. Okay, we've placed in the email. I think we have a field of password here, password. So we want to sync all this into it. So let's say 1, 2, 3 password. Yeah, maybe that's what we actually want to put into the database. So once you've done this, you can see this was created here, right? And I saved it in a variable called user. So you can pick up this and say .save. You can say .save, right? Or you can do it, you can see the method there .save is in the Mongoose model. Once you do that, it's already saved. Or you can also decide to, like, since you've created it as a variable, which is this, right? You can say user.save. You can come in here and say the user.save. So you can still see it, the method is popping out. So user.save. Now there are a lot that can go in within this user.save. You can decide to, print out something and give us a message, a kind of message that, something has been saved into the database and so on and so forth. Now it can take, sometimes you can decide to put in, there are so many, as I said before now, there are so many stuff that you can actually do with this. But we just want to simplify this. So after this is done, what we just want to do is just to do a rest.send. So rest.send and say post made. Now this is not a guarantee that the post has been made because I'm actually doing it here. Okay, I think I should make use of it. I shouldn't just see it. I should just make use of it. So the first thing that we can create here, we can decide to create 2 parameters. It can take parameter, but the present day, or you can use what is called the .then, right? So you tag it. The old node will allow you to create what is called, I'm trying to remember the name. I don't have forgotten the name. In such a way, you can create the function and just put that there. For this, instead of doing that, we're just going to be putting, it's called a callback function. Thank you. So instead of doing that, we're going to put in the .then to just tag it out. So, and this is going to be taking some method. So you can put in the method. If there is error, it can post in error. And if there is sources, you can post in sources. So you can put in that. And you can decide also not to do all that. And here you just go and do some console.log. Console.log. So what are you console.log? It's just to say registered successful. registered successfully. Okay, enough of double C, double L, double L. Okay, so here we go. So you can decide to do it like this, or you can just decide to just break it down and make it a little bit neat. Well, you can put it in one row, and that is good to go. So if we do this, we'll just quickly try to save this and see how it works. So this means that we are saving all this, hard coding it. You see, we are not getting it from any user. We're just typing it directly. This is what we want to be there. But let's see first if it's going to sync into the database. So let's run that. Moment of truth. So we're getting an error. So the error we are getting is that the user model is not a constructor. Okay, and let's check that off from our console as well, and see where that problem is coming from. So it's saying that the user model is not a constructor, so we shouldn't use a new. That's what it actually means. So let's go to this place where we have this. Instead of using this new, we can just go ahead and just use the user model dot this, and it's going to work out well. So hopefully that should solve the problem. So let's hit this now. Moment of truth again. So we're getting an error, and this error, it said model is not a function. A user model is not a function. So let's quickly check what we have also done wrong using the user model and see where the problem is actually coming from. Okay. So I think the problem is actually coming from the schema. So let's quickly check the schema. Oh, this is it. So we don't need this new anymore. Yeah, we can take that off, and then everything will be okay. In the previous, Mongos, it all depends on the stuff that you're using. Different version, the old version will actually allow you to do that. But for reason-based notation, it's not allowing us to do that. So we're taking that off now quickly. So we'll just resave and then go back to our stuff again and try to run that same stuff. So we hit the send, and let's see. So it's sending now. We never said it should make any response to us. So we just said it should console.log if it is successful. So as you can see, we can see registered successful. So let's go check out, the record that we just entered. Okay, quickly. So we'll go to our Mongoose, as the case may be, our MongoDB Atlas. If you install this on your system, fine, and it will compass. If you don't install it, if you've not installed it on your system, you can install, or you can even go and use the online version, or just go straight to your own cluster and see all the records. So I'm just going to refresh this again and see what I have here. So there is duplicate, disconnect, refresh database. So I'm just going to refresh this. So if I refresh this, I think I called I've forgotten the name I called that database. It's like tutor or something like that. And let me see if any of such is created. Yes, this is it, API tutor, right? So if you click on the API tutor, so it's just going to open it up, and it's telling you that here we have two documents, and here we go. Once you open it up here, we have two records that have already been saved in. So we have the ID, the username. For reason best not to it, it's not taking the full name. So we're just going to see what the problem is, why the full name is not, actually working, coming in the way we wanted it to be. So you can delete, you can edit from here, so you can edit your database. So this is the reason why someone must not have, access to your database, because they can edit and they can delete, right? You can do some manipulations here. So here we go. We have the ID. Now, this is the unique ID we just talked about, the object type. So you can see this, very unique. So if you create another data type, it's going to also do that. So what I will just do quickly is just to go straight and see what we have done wrong. Maybe we've not used the right feed, and that is why we're not getting it. Okay, we said this is full name, right? Okay, let me see what the schema says if we actually call out a full name. So go back to the schema, the model, the user schema. Okay, that's the schema. Yeah, let's go to the controller and see if you actually use that full name of a thing. So we go to the user, and boom, we're using name instead of full name. So that's where the problem was coming from. So let's quickly correct that. So it's called full name and not name. Full. So we can try that again using another email. It doesn't matter, we can use the same email because we never made it to be unique. So it can still work exactly the way others have been working. So I can just choose to leave it the way it was before. So let's quickly run that. We'll save it. It's a moment of truth. So we'll go back and go to our postman and make that, make that request. So boom. So if we go back, it said it's successful. So let's go and check our database and see if it has been entered into our database. So we can refresh this way. This is the way we refresh. So you refresh this way. As you can see, we just had it. This is the new data. So if you check out this ID, is different from this other ID. So it's unique for every one of them. So far so good. We've been able to impute something into our database without validation. So we're just imputing it. There is no validation yet. So we would like a situation whereby we'll be able to collect data from user and be able to validate it before we allow it to be synced into the database. So we will do that in the nearest future. And if you have any question, I will appreciate if you drop a message on my mail, then I can then reply you. Thank you very much.